Commander Zethkar stood before the High Council of Vorthak, his once pristine uniform, now bearing the scorch marks of a war that should never have been lost. The crystalline chambers echoed with the whispers of the assembled lords, their bioluminescent crests dimming with disbelief as they processed his report. "Explain this catastrophe," hissed Supreme Overlord Vexthul, his four eyes blazing with barely contained fury. 9,900 ships, the finest fleet our empire has ever assembled. And you return with 17? Zethkar's mandibles clicked nervously as he accessed his neural implant, projecting holographic data into the chamber's center. The blue-white images showed Earth a small, insignificant world in the outer spiral arm, rich with resources and inhabited by a primitive bipedal species that had barely achieved nuclear capability. "The intelligence was correct, my lord," Zethkar began, his voice steady despite the tremor in his secondary hearts. "Earth possessed no energy shields, no plasma weaponry, no quantum defensive systems. Their most advanced aircraft moved at subsonic speeds. Their space program was laughable." The hologram shifted, showing human cities, their crude architecture and primitive technology laid bare under Vorthakian sensors. The council members leaned forward, confusion replacing anger on their chitinous features. "Then how?" Overlord Vexthul's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Zethkar's crest darkened to deep purple, the color of profound unease among his species. "They had something we did not account for, my lord. Something our sciences could not predict or quantify." The memory flooded back with painful clarity. The vast armada had emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their ships blotting out the sun above Earth's northern hemisphere. The plan was simple: demonstrate overwhelming force, demand surrender, then harvest the planet's resources and enslave its population. It had worked on 47 other worlds. The humans had responded exactly as predicted, with fear, chaos, and desperate attempts at communication. Their leaders had gathered in frantic meetings, their military forces scrambling like insects before the Vorthakian might. Everything proceeded according to the invasion protocols. Then came the first attack. "It began with their entertainment transmissions," Zethkar continued, the hologram now showing captured human broadcasts. "They began broadcasting stories, fictional narratives about invasions like ours. But these weren't records of defeats. They were tales of victory." The council stirred uneasily. The concept of fictional narratives was foreign to Vorthakian culture. Their minds processed only literal truth and tactical data. "At first, we dismissed these transmissions. But then something unprecedented occurred. The humans began to believe their own stories. Not as literal truth, but as possibility. As hope." Zethkar's voice grew quieter as he recalled the impossible sight. "They began to fight back, my lord. Not with superior technology, but with something our databases had no classification for. They called it hope and determination and the human spirit." The hologram shifted to show the first human counterattack, crude fighters and missiles that should have been swatted aside like gnats. Instead, they fought with a ferocity that defied all tactical analysis. Humans piloted damaged aircraft on suicide runs, operated weapons while mortally wounded, and coordinated impossible strategies through what they called faith in each other. Their losses were catastrophic, Zethkar admitted. For every Vorthakian ship they destroyed, they lost thousands of their own. But they never stopped. They never surrendered. They began to adapt our technology faster than our analysts predicted possible. The worst part, the part that still haunted Zethkar's dreams, was how the humans had turned their very primitiveness into an advantage. Their crude nuclear weapons, dismissed by Vorthakian shields, were strapped to asteroids and detonated in suicide attacks. Their chemical rockets, too slow to threaten Vorthakian vessels, were loaded with their own soldiers who fought hand-to-hand inside captured ships. But the decisive factor, Zethkar's crest, turned almost black, was their stories. They broadcast them constantly during the battle tales of David defeating Goliath, of 300 Spartans holding off an empire, of rebels destroying Death Stars. These weren't tactical manuals, yet somehow they coordinated their entire species' resistance. The human broadcasts had infected his own crews with doubt. Vorthakian soldiers, raised on certainty and tactical superiority, found themselves hesitating when faced with humans who fought as if defeat was impossible. The humans' inspirational speeches and war cries created resonances in the quantum field that disrupted Vorthakian neural networks. Most disturbing of all, Zethkar concluded they learned not just our technology, but our weaknesses. They began broadcasting fictional stories about defeating us, specifically creating detailed narratives about Vorthakian vulnerabilities that somehow became tactical realities. The silence in the chamber stretched for long moments. Finally, Supreme Overlord Vexthal spoke, his voice hollow with disbelief. "You're telling this council that we lost our greatest fleet to something more powerful than plasma cannons or quantum shields, my lord. To a species that refuses to accept defeat because they've convinced themselves that victory is always possible, no matter the odds." Zethkar activated one final hologram Earth as they had left it. The planet was scarred, its cities damaged, billions of its people dead. By any rational measure, the humans had lost far more than the Vorthakians. Yet they were rebuilding, already reverse engineering captured technology, already preparing for the next wave. "The 17 ships that returned with me," Zethkar said quietly, "were allowed to leave. The humans wanted us to deliver a message." The chamber fell silent. "They said to tell you that Earth is under the protection of something you cannot understand, cannot predict, and cannot defeat. They called it the power of stories and the strength of dreams made real." Supreme Overlord Vexthal's 4 eyes narrowed. "And what do you recommend, Commander?" Zethkar's crest shifted to the deep blue of absolute certainty. "That we never return to that world, my lord. Some battles cannot be won through superior firepower. And some species." He paused, remembering the impossible courage in human eyes. "Some species are dangerous precisely because they refuse to understand when they should be afraid." The High Council voted that very day to quarantine the Sol system indefinitely. In their official records, Earth was classified not as a failed conquest, but as a reality-warping anomaly too dangerous to approach. And in the depths of space, 17 damaged Vorthakian ships carried the knowledge that somewhere in the galaxy lived a species that could turn fiction into fact and dreams into weapons of unimaginable power.